Grace White's life unravels when a mysterious email reveals her cousin's scheme to sabotage her career. At 28, she's Buffalo's brightest graphic designer, but a stolen project and a vicious smear campaign threaten to crush her. As secrets unravel and unexpected allies emerge, Grace must navigate a web of lies to restore her name, lawfully. Can she expose the truth before envy and betrayal destroy her dreams? Or will she lose everything in the icy heart of winter? There is one detail that only the attentive notice. Did you notice? Subscribe. It will help us make content that you will watch. Grace White's fingers danced across her tablet, sketching vibrant designs for a major client's rebranding campaign. At 28, she was Buffalo, New York's rising star in graphic design, her work gracing billboards and websites across the city. Her cozy office in the historic Ellicott Square building buzzed with creativity, its tall windows framing the snow-dusted streets below. Grace thrived in Buffalo's gritty charm, where old industrial roots met a vibrant arts scene. But today, an uneasy knot tightened in her chest. "Grace, you've got a call from Lauren," her assistant, Mia, called from the doorway. Lauren Carter, Grace's cousin, worked at Pinnacle Creative, the city's top marketing firm and Grace's biggest client. Their relationship was complicated. Lauren's charm masked a competitive edge that Grace tried to ignore. She took a deep breath, pushing aside memories of childhood rivalries, and picked up the phone. "Grace, darling," Lauren's voice dripped with syrupy enthusiasm. "The board loved your initial drafts for the waterfront project, but they want a fresh spin. Can you meet us tomorrow? We need to lock this down." Grace's brow furrowed. The waterfront project was her biggest yet, a campaign to revitalize Buffalo's lakeside with eco-friendly businesses. She'd poured months into it. "Tomorrow? That's tight, Lauren. I'll need details on the changes." Grace's tone was professional, but suspicion crept in. Lauren laughed a little too brightly. "Oh, you'll see. Just bring your A-game." The call ended abruptly, leaving Grace staring at her screen. Something felt off, like a shadow flickering in her peripheral vision. That evening, Grace sat in her apartment, a converted loft in Buffalo's Allentown district. Snowflakes tapped the windows as she sipped coffee, reviewing her designs. Her fiancé, Ethan Brooks, a public defender with a quiet strength, noticed her tension. "You okay, Grace? You've been glued to that tablet all night." His warm brown eyes searched hers. "It's Lauren," Grace admitted, setting the tablet down. "She's acting strange about the waterfront project. I can't shake the feeling she's hiding something." Ethan frowned, familiar with Lauren's manipulative streak. Growing up, Lauren had always craved the spotlight, once spreading rumors to overshadow Grace's art awards. "Trust your gut," he said, "but don't let her get in your head." Grace nodded, but sleep eluded her that night. At 2 a.m., her phone buzzed with an anonymous email. "Check Pinnacle's server. Folder, waterfront redirect, you're being played." Her heart raced. Was this a prank? Against her better judgment, she logged into Pinnacle's shared server using her freelancer credentials. The folder was there, hidden in a restricted directory. Inside were mock-ups of her designs, rebranded with Lauren's name, time-stamped weeks ago. Worse, there were emails between Lauren and Pinnacle's CEO, Victor Hayes, discussing a plan to pivot the project to a new designer, Lauren. Grace's hands trembled. Lauren was stealing her work, passing it off as her own to secure a promotion. The betrayal stung, but the emails hinted at something bigger, a scheme to discredit Grace entirely. One message from Victor read, "Make sure her reputation takes a hit. We can't have freelancers outshining our team." Grace's mind spun. This wasn't just jealousy. It was a calculated plot. The next morning, Grace arrived at Pinnacle's sleek office in Buffalo's downtown, her portfolio in hand, but her resolve steeled. Lauren greeted her with a dazzling smile, flanked by Victor and a few board members. Grace, you're a lifesaver for coming on short notice. Lauren's warmth felt like a trap. As Grace presented her designs, Victor interrupted. These are underwhelming. We expected more innovation. His tone was cold, dismissive. Grace's pulse quickened. Underwhelming? These are the exact concepts you approved last month. She glanced at Lauren, whose smile didn't waver. Victor leaned back, exchanging a look with Lauren. We've seen similar work elsewhere. Perhaps you're not as original as we thought. The accusation landed like a slap. Grace opened her mouth to protest, but Lauren cut in. Let's move forward with the new direction. I've got some ideas ready. Humiliation burned in Grace's chest, but she held her composure. Back at her office, she confided in Mia, who was equally shocked. Lauren's always been jealous, but this? It's sabotage. Grace nodded, pulling up the anonymous email. Someone's trying to warn me. I need to find out who and why. She hesitated, then called her Aunt Clara, a retired journalist in Rochester who'd always been her rock. Clara's sharp mind and no-nonsense attitude had guided Grace through past storms. Grace, this smells like a setup, Clara said over the phone, her voice steady. Check your contract with Pinnacle. If they're stealing your work, there's legal recourse. And that email? Trace it. You've got a whistleblower. Clara's words lit a spark of hope. Grace reviewed her contract, finding a clause that protected her intellectual property. She also noticed an odd detail. Pinnacle's server logs showed unauthorized access from an internal IP address. Someone inside was helping her. That night, Grace met Ethan at a cozy diner near Delaware Park. Over steaming plates of pierogies, she shared everything. Ethan's jaw tightened. Lauren's not just stealing your work. She's trying to bury you. We need to play smart. Document everything and don't confront her yet. Grace agreed, but dread gnawed at her. What was Lauren's end game? And why was Victor so eager to ruin her? As they left the diner, Grace's phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. Look into Pinnacle's funding. Lauren's not acting alone. Grace froze, the snowy Buffalo night closing in. This wasn't just personal. It was a conspiracy. She clutched Ethan's hand, determination replacing fear. Lauren had underestimated her, but Grace White wasn't going down without a fight. Grace White sat at her desk in her Buffalo loft, the glow of her laptop casting shadows across the room. Snow swirled outside, blanketing the city in a quiet that contrasted with the storm brewing in her mind. The anonymous email's words haunted her. Look into Pinnacle's funding. Lauren's not acting alone. Grace's cousin, Lauren Carter, had stolen her waterfront project designs, but the plot ran deeper. Pinnacle Creative's CEO, Victor Hayes, was complicit, and now Grace suspected a corporate conspiracy. She needed answers, fast. Grace sipped her coffee, its bitterness grounding her. She opened Pinnacle's public financial records, cross-referencing them with local news archives. Buffalo's waterfront redevelopment was a multi-million-dollar initiative, funded partly by a shady real estate firm, Harbor Corp. Articles hinted at Harbor Corp's questionable practices, bribes, rushed permits, but nothing concrete. Then, in Pinnacle's annual report, Grace spotted a red flag. Harbor Corp had funneled a consulting fee to Pinnacle just before Lauren's new designs surfaced. Was this a payoff to bury Grace's work? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Aunt Clara, her voice crisp despite the late hour. Grace, I dug into Harbor Corp. They've got a history of strong-arming small firms to control Buffalo's redevelopment. If Pinnacle's in their pocket, your project might have threatened their plans. Grace's stomach churned. Her designs emphasized eco-friendly, community-focused spaces, ideas Harbor Corp's profit-driven vision would reject. So Lauren's a pawn? Grace asked. Or a willing player, Clara replied. Either way, you need hard evidence. Check Pinnacle's internal communications. Your whistleblower might have left breadcrumbs. Clara's advice was a lifeline. Grace logged back into Pinnacle's server, her freelancer access still active. Likely an oversight. She found a cached email thread between Victor and an unknown account, HC_proxy1. Message read, White's designs are too public-friendly. Carter's on board to replace her. Ensure the smear sticks. The smear. Grace's heart raced. They were planning to ruin her reputation. The next day, Grace met her assistant, Mia, at a bustling coffee shop in Buffalo's Elmwood Village. Over steaming lattes, Grace shared her findings. Mia's eyes widened. This is huge, Grace. But how do you prove it without getting burned? Grace leaned forward, her voice low. I need to find the whistleblower. They're risking everything to help me. Mia hesitated, then slid a USB drive across the table. I found this in the office printer tray yesterday. It's got server logs and a memo. I didn't look too closely, but it mentions you. Grace's pulse quickened. Back home, she plugged in the drive. The memo was from Victor to Pinnacle's board, outlining a plan to restructure the waterfront project and neutralize Grace's influence. The server logs showed the whistleblower's IP address accessing restricted files. Someone with high-level clearance. Grace cross-checked employee records and froze. The IP traced to Ryan Patel, Pinnacle's IT manager. Ryan? She barely knew him, a quiet guy who'd always seemed nervous around Lauren. Why was he helping her? Grace called Ethan, her fiancé, to strategize. Ethan, ever the cautious lawyer, urged restraint. Ryan's your key, but don't spook him. If he's blowing the whistle, he's scared. Set up a safe meeting. Grace nodded, drafting a careful email to Ryan from a burner account. I know you're trying to help. Coffee at Spot 3 p.m. tomorrow. I just want to talk. She hit send, her nerves fraying. What if Ryan was a double agent, feeding her just enough to trap her? At the meeting, Spot Coffee's cozy vibe belied Grace's tension. Ryan arrived, his dark eyes scanning the room. He slid into the booth, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to get involved, Grace, but I couldn't stay quiet. Lauren and Victor are railroading you. Grace leaned in. Why me? Why now? Ryan glanced around, then handed her a folded paper. This is a contract between Pinnacle and Harbor Corp. They're burying your designs to push a luxury condo deal. Lauren gets a cut if she discredits you. Grace unfolded the paper, her hands shaking. The contract confirmed Harbor Corp's funding hinged on Pinnacle delivering a streamlined project. Code for developer-friendly, not community-focused. Lauren's name was scrawled on a side agreement promising her a bonus for consulting. Grace's vision blurred with anger. She's selling out Buffalo for a paycheck. Ryan nodded. And they're planning to leak a story accusing you of plagiarizing your designs. It's already with a local blog. Grace's blood ran cold. A plagiarism scandal would destroy her career. She pressed Ryan. Why help me? You're risking everything. His jaw tightened. My sister lost her shop to Harbor Corp's shady deals. I can't let them ruin someone else. Grace saw the pain in his eyes, a shared resolve. I need more evidence, she said. Ryan hesitated. There's a board meeting tomorrow night. I can get you digital recordings, but you have to act fast. They're moving up the smear campaign. That night, Grace and Ethan huddled with Aunt Clara via video call. Clara's silver hair gleamed under her desk lamp as she dissected the contract. This is dynamite, Grace, but it's not enough for court. You need those recordings to tie Lauren and Victor to Harbor Corp's scheme. Ethan agreed. We'll need a lawyer who knows corporate fraud. I know someone, Nia Carter, no relation to Lauren. She's fierce. Grace felt a surge of hope, but dread lingered. The blog leak was imminent, and her name was about to be dragged through the mud. As Grace lay in bed, Ethan's arms around her, A text from an unknown number lit up her phone. "Back off, or the plagiarism story goes live tomorrow." Her breath caught. Lauren was closing in, and the stakes were higher than ever. Grace clutched the contract, her resolve hardening. She'd expose the truth, lawfully, but first she had to survive the coming storm. Grace White's heart pounded as she reread the threatening text. "Back off, or the plagiarism story goes live tomorrow." The snowy Buffalo morning felt colder, the weight of Lauren Carter's vendetta pressing down on her. Grace, a 28-year-old graphic designer, had uncovered a conspiracy. Her cousin Lauren, Pinnacle Creative's CEO Victor Hayes, and the shady Harbor Corp were sabotaging her waterfront project to push a profit-driven agenda. With Ryan Patel, Pinnacle's IT manager, as her whistleblower, Grace had a chance to fight back, but time was running out. In her Allentown loft, Grace showed the text to Ethan, her fiancé. His eyes narrowed. "This is intimidation, Grace. We need to loop in Nia Carter, the lawyer I mentioned. She'll know how to handle this." Grace nodded, her mind racing. The plagiarism accusation could ruin her career, painting her as a fraud in Buffalo's tight-knit creative community. She called Ryan, her voice steady despite her fear. "The blog leak's happening tomorrow. Can you get those board meeting recordings tonight?" Ryan's voice crackled with nerves. "It's risky, but I'll try. Meet me at 10 p.m. behind the old grain elevators. Bring a USB drive." The grain elevators, relics of Buffalo's industrial past, were an eerie, isolated spot. Grace agreed, but unease gnawed at her. What if Lauren was watching? She confided in Aunt Clara, who joined the call from Rochester. "Be careful, Grace," Clara warned. "Record everything, your meetings, your calls. If they're playing dirty, you need a paper trail." That afternoon, Grace's fears materialized. Her phone buzzed with a notification from a local blog, Buffalo Arts Beat. The headline screamed, "Rising designer Grace White accused of plagiarism in waterfront project." The article claimed Grace had stolen her designs from an obscure European firm, citing anonymous sources at Pinnacle. Comments flooded in, some defending her, others tearing her apart. Grace's hands shook as she scrolled. Lauren had struck first. Mia, her assistant, called in a panic. "Grace, clients are asking questions. Pinnacle's saying you're off the project." Grace's chest tightened. She drafted a calm response for her clients, denying the allegations and promising transparency. Then she emailed Nia Carter, attaching the blog post, the threatening text, and Ryan's contract evidence. Nia replied swiftly, "This is defamation. Meet me at my office, 3 p.m. Bring everything." At Nia's downtown office, Grace and Ethan sat across from the sharp-eyed lawyer. Nia, a black woman in her 40s with a commanding presence, reviewed the documents. "The contract and emails are strong, but the recordings are critical. They'll prove intent. The text could be admissible if we trace it to Lauren or Victor." Grace hesitated. "What about the blog? It's already out there." Nia leaned forward. "We'll issue a cease and desist and demand a retraction, but we need to move fast, before this spreads." Nia's confidence steadied Grace, but the public fallout was brutal. At a nearby cafe, she overheard whispers. "Isn't that the designer who stole her work?" Her social media was a battlefield, with trolls amplifying the accusations. Grace muted her notifications, focusing on the plan. She'd meet Ryan tonight, secure the recordings, and build her case. But doubt crept in. What if the recordings weren't enough? What if Lauren had more tricks up her sleeve? As dusk fell, Grace drove to the grain elevators, the hulking silhouettes looming against the snowy sky. Ethan insisted on coming, waiting in the car for safety. Grace stepped into the shadows, clutching a USB drive. Ryan appeared, his hoodie pulled low. "I got the audio," he whispered, handing her a flash drive. "Victor and Lauren discuss framing you and Harbor Corp's payoffs. But they're suspicious. Someone saw me near the server room. Grace's breath hitched. Are you safe? Ryan shrugged. I'm quitting tomorrow. This is my last play. Back in the car, Grace played the audio on her laptop. Victor's voice was unmistakable. White's a liability. The plagiarism story will kill her credibility. Lauren, you're sure the blog won't trace back to us? Lauren's laugh chilled Grace. It's airtight. She'll be toxic by next week. The recording also captured Victor confirming Harbor Corp's demand to scrap Grace's eco-friendly designs for condos. It was damning, but incomplete. They needed proof of the smear's execution. Ethan's jaw clenched. This is enough to sue for defamation and fraud, but we need to tie the text and blog to Lauren directly. Grace nodded, her resolve hardening. She forwarded the audio to Nia, who texted back, Goldmine, file a defamation suit tomorrow. I'll subpoena Pinnacle's communications. Grace felt a flicker of hope, but the blog's damage was spreading. A major client canceled, citing reputational concerns. Grace's dream of shaping Buffalo's future was slipping away. That night, another anonymous text arrived. You got the recordings. Now drop it, or we leak worse. Grace's blood ran cold. Worse? What could Lauren possibly have? She showed Ethan, who urged her to stay the course. They're scared, Grace. That's why they're threatening you. Naya's building the case, and Ryan's evidence is solid. But as Grace lay awake, the buffalo wind howling outside, she couldn't shake the fear. Lauren's cruelty knew no bounds, and the worse loomed like a guillotine. The next morning, Grace woke to a voicemail from an old colleague, Tessa, at Pinnacle. Grace, I heard about the blog. I found something weird in Lauren's office. A burner phone and a notebook with blog contacts. I took photos. Call me. Grace's heart leapt. Tessa could be the key to tracing the smear, but meeting her meant risking exposure. Grace called Clara, who advised caution. Tessa might be legit, but verify her story. Lauren could be baiting you. Grace arranged to meet Tessa at a crowded market near Buffalo's canal side, hoping the public setting would deter any traps. As she prepared, her phone buzzed with a news alert. Pinnacle Creative faces scrutiny over waterfront project ethics. Someone had leaked Harbor Corp's shady ties to the press. Grace's eyes widened. Was Ryan behind this, or was another ally emerging? The walls were closing in on Lauren and Victor, but Grace's reputation hung by a thread. She had to act now, or lose everything. Grace White stood in the bustling canal-side market, the scent of roasted chestnuts mingling with the crisp buffalo air. Snowflakes dusted her coat as she scanned the crowd for Tessa, her former Pinnacle colleague who'd promised evidence, a burner phone and notebook linking Lauren Carter to the plagiarism smear. Grace's career hung by a thread after a vicious blog post accused her of stealing her waterfront project designs. With Ryan Patel's board meeting recordings and a defamation lawsuit in motion, Grace was close to exposing Lauren, Pinnacle's CEO Victor Hayes, and their Harbor Corp allies. But a chilling text, drop it or we leak worse, echoed in her mind. What could be worse than ruining her reputation? Grace's fiancé, Ethan, stood nearby, pretending to browse a vendor's stall for safety. Her phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Clara. Trust Tessa, but record the meet. Lauren's desperate. Grace nodded to herself, slipping a voice recorder into her pocket. Tessa appeared, her curly hair tucked under a knit cap, eyes darting nervously. Grace, I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner, she whispered, handing over a Ziploc bag with printed photos. These were in Lauren's desk. The notebook lists blog contacts and a payment schedule. The burner phone had texts to the Buffalo Arts Beat editor. Grace's pulse raced as she studied the photos. The notebook detailed $5,000 wired to the blog for the White story. Texts from the burner phone instructed the editor to amplify the plagiarism angle. It was a smoking gun. Tessa, why risk this? Grace asked. Tessa's face hardened. Lauren bullied me for years. When I saw her target you, I couldn't stay silent. You're one of the good ones, Grace. Grace squeezed her hand, gratitude mixing with dread. This evidence could bury Lauren, but it also made Grace a bigger target. Back at her loft, Grace shared the photos with Ethan and emailed them to Nia Carter, their lawyer. Nia called immediately, her voice electric. This ties Lauren to the smear campaign. Combined with Ryan's recordings, we've got a slam-dunk defamation case. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to stop Pinnacle from spreading more lies. Grace exhaled, but Ethan frowned. What about the worse they threatened? Lauren's not bluffing. Grace's stomach twisted. She'd built her career on integrity. What could Lauren fabricate to top plagiarism? The answer came that evening. Grace's phone lit up with a new Buffalo Arts Beat post. Grace White linked to client data breach at Pinnacle Creative. The article alleged Grace had hacked Pinnacle's servers, leaking client data to competitors. It cited internal logs and an anonymous tip. Grace's blood ran cold. The accusation was absurd. She'd only accessed the server to uncover Lauren's theft. But the logs could be doctored. Clients flooded her inbox demanding explanations. 2 more canceled contracts citing trust issues. Grace called Ryan in a panic. They're framing me for a data breach. Can they fake server logs? Ryan's voice was tense. Yeah, Victor's got the tech team on a leash. I'll check the system, but you need to go public. Show your evidence before they bury you. Grace hesitated. Going public could backfire, exposing Ryan and Tessa. But silence was surrender. She called Nia, who agreed. We leak the truth, strategically. I know a reporter at the Buffalo News who'll run a counter story. Send me everything. Grace and Ethan met Nia at her office, a sleek space overlooking Buffalo's waterfront. Nia reviewed the evidence, Ryan's recordings, Tessa's photos, the Harbor Corp contract, and Grace's server access records, which showed no breach. We'll hit them with the injunction and a press release, Nia said. The news will run a piece exposing Pinnacle's corruption. But Grace, you'll need to go on record. Are you ready? Grace swallowed hard. Facing the public meant reliving the betrayal. But she nodded. Let's do it. That night, Grace drafted a statement with Ethan and Clara's input. It detailed Lauren's theft, Victor's complicity, and Harbor Corp's scheme to hijack Buffalo's waterfront for condos. Clara, ever the journalist, polished it. Make it human, Grace. Show Buffalo why you fought for this project. Grace added a personal note. My designs were for our community, for parks, small businesses, and families. I won't let greed steal our city's future. She sent it to Nia, who coordinated with the news reporter. The next morning, the Buffalo News published, Local Designer Fights Corporate Conspiracy in Waterfront Scandal. The article laid bare Pinnacle's plot, quoting Grace's statement and citing leaked documents. Social media erupted, with Buffalo's art community rallying behind Grace. Hashtags like Number Justice for Grace trended locally, but Lauren and Victor didn't stay quiet. Pinnacle issued a denial, claiming Grace's false allegations were a desperate bid for attention. A new text arrived. You'll regret this. Grace's resolve wavered. The data breach lie was gaining traction, and Pinnacle's lawyers were circling. She met Ryan at a diner near Niagara Square, his face pale. They're auditing the servers. I covered my tracks, but they're blaming you for my access. Victor's pushing for criminal charges. Grace's heart sank. Criminal charges? She'd lose everything. Her career, her freedom. Ryan, can you prove the logs were tampered with? He nodded. I'm downloading the original backups now. Give me 24 hours. As Grace left the diner, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Lauren, watching from across the street. Their eyes locked, Lauren's gaze cold and triumphant. Grace's phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number. You think you're clever, Grace? We've got friends in high places. Drop the lawsuit, or you'll wish you'd stayed quiet. The voice wasn't Lauren's, it was Victor's. Fear gripped Grace, but anger burned hotter. They were scared, lashing out. She forwarded the voicemail to Nia, who texted back, "This is harassment. We're adding it to the case. Stay strong." That night, Grace and Ethan sat with Clara, who'd driven from Rochester. Clara's eyes blazed. "They're cornered, Grace. That voicemail's a gift. It proves Victor's guilt. Keep pushing." Grace clutched the USB with Ryan's backups, her lifeline. Tomorrow, Nia would present the evidence in court for the injunction. But as Buffalo's skyline glittered outside, Grace felt the weight of the fight. Lauren's friends in high places loomed, and the data breach lie could still destroy her. She needed one final piece to turn the tide, and she needed it now. Grace White stood outside Buffalo's city court, the icy wind biting her face as snow blanketed the steps. At 28, she'd faced betrayal, sabotage, and lies, but today was her reckoning. Her cousin Lauren Carter, Pinnacle Creative's CEO Victor Hayes, and their Harbor Corp allies had stolen her waterfront project designs and smeared her with plagiarism and data breach accusations. Armed with Ryan Patel's recordings, Tessa's photos, and lawyer Nia Carter's fierce strategy, Grace was ready to fight for justice, lawfully. Yet Victor's chilling voicemail, "We've got friends in high places," lingered. A reminder of the stakes. Inside, she'd face Lauren, and the truth would either free her or bury her. In Nia's office hours earlier, Grace had reviewed the evidence: Ryan's board meeting audio, Tessa's notebook and burner phone photos, the Harbor Corp contract, and server backups proving the data breach logs were falsified. Nia's eyes gleamed. "We're filing for an injunction to halt Pinnacle's smear campaign and suing for defamation, fraud, and intellectual property theft. Victor's voicemail is icing. It shows intent to intimidate." Grace clutched the USB drive, her lifeline. "Will it be enough?" Nia nodded. "With the Buffalo News expose and public support, we've got momentum. Stay sharp in court." Ethan, Grace's fiancé, squeezed her hand as they entered the courtroom. Aunt Clara, who'd driven from Rochester, sat behind them, her presence a steady anchor. The gallery buzzed with reporters, and Buffalo's art community rallied by #JusticeForGrace. Lauren sat across the aisle, her polished smile masking venom. Victor, stone-faced, avoided Grace's gaze. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, called the hearing to order. Nia presented the injunction, detailing Pinnacle's plot to steal Grace's designs and ruin her reputation for Harbor Corp's condo scheme. Nia played Ryan's recordings, Victor's voice echoing. "The plagiarism story will kill her credibility." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Lauren's smile faltered as Tessa's photos flashed on screen, showing her payments to Buffalo Arts Beat. The server backup sealed it. Pinnacle's breach logs were tampered with, dated after Grace's access. Nia's voice rang out. "Grace White is a victim of corporate greed and personal envy. We demand Pinnacle retract the lies and compensate her losses." The judge's pen moved swiftly, her expression unreadable. Lauren's lawyer, a slick man in a tailored suit, countered. "Ms. White accessed restricted servers, violating her contract. The allegations are speculative, driven by jealousy of Ms. Carter's success." He produced a new document, server logs allegedly showing Grace downloading client data. Grace's heart sank. The logs were fake, but convincing. Nia whispered, "They're bluffing. Ryan's backups debunk this." Grace nodded, but fear gnawed at her. What if the judge bought it? Then, a surprise witness took the stand. Ryan Patel. Grace's breath caught. He'd quit Pinnacle, risking retaliation. But here he was. Under oath, Ryan explained how Victor ordered him to alter the logs, threatening his job. "I helped Grace because she was framed. Harbor Corp wanted her eco-friendly designs gone." He submitted a final piece, an email from Harbor Corp to Victor, demanding Grace's removal to secure the waterfront deal. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Lauren's face paled, her composure cracking. The judge called a recess, and Grace huddled with Ethan and Clara. "Ryan's a hero," Clara said, her eyes fierce. "But Lauren's team's got pull. Stay vigilant." Grace nodded, spotting Lauren whispering to her lawyer, her eyes darting toward Grace. Was she planning one last move? Back in session, Nia cross-examined Victor, who stammered, unable to explain the Harbor Corp email. The judge's gavel fell. Injunction granted. Pinnacle will cease all defamatory statements. The defamation suit proceeds to trial. Cheers erupted from Grace's supporters. Outside, the Buffalo News swarmed Grace. She gave a brief statement. "This is for Buffalo's future. Our community deserves better." The article went viral, exposing Harbor Corp's corruption. Days later, Pinnacle's board fired Victor, and Lauren resigned under pressure. Harbor Corp pulled funding, and the waterfront project reverted to Grace's original designs. Clients returned, apologizing for doubting her. Grace's reputation was restored, but the personal toll lingered. Weeks later, spring sunlight warmed Grace's loft. She and Ethan hosted Clara and Ryan for dinner, laughter filling the air. Ryan had landed a new job, free from Pinnacle's shadow. Clara raised a glass. "To real family, bound by trust, not blood." Grace smiled, her heart full. Lauren had moved to Chicago, her career in tatters. A civil trial loomed, with Nia predicting a hefty settlement. Grace didn't care about the money. She'd won something greater, her truth, her city's future, and a chosen family. One evening, Grace received a call from Tessa. "I'm starting a co-op for local designers. Want in?" Grace grinned. The co-op would prioritize community projects, a legacy of her fight. She and Ethan also began mentoring young artists, building a network of support Lauren could never break. As Grace sketched new designs, Buffalo's skyline gleaming outside, she whispered, "This is home." The scars of betrayal remained, but they'd forged her into something stronger, a woman who'd faced injustice and won, lawfully, with love and resilience.